Good evening. Thank you for coming to tonight's Piqua City Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Melissa, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Grissom.
Here.
Commissioner Hines.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Mayor Pearson.
Here.
Commissioner Vetter.
Here.
Before we get started this evening, I wanted to remind folks that we need, as persons shall conduct themselves in a civil, respectful manner, and that no person shall be permitted to comment twice on a resolution at the same meeting. We appreciate your cooperation. Moving ahead to the consent agenda, approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes from the September 5th, 2023 regular City Commission meeting.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Moving into new business, ordinance number O-12-23, the first reading.
An ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels of real property to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation, establishing a tax increment equivalent fund, and providing for the collection and deposit of service payments into that fund, specifying the public infrastructure improvements directly benefiting the property, and authorizing a development agreement with Ascend Wellness Holdings.
Good evening, Commission. This item would establish a parcel tax increment financing, a TIF tool that would enable improvements to Recker Road, primarily extending water and sewer lines from Looney Road to the east, which then also would result in replacement of the roadway and a new roadway surface. And this would enable the development of the lots that front US Route 36, just to the east of the fuel station, between the fuel station and Long John Silver's. The development interest has a desire to extend the water and sewer to enable the development of the site, and has asked for the city's support with reference to this TIF to help finance the construction. In doing so, we would not only be able to enable the development to occur on this site and realize the new investment there, it would also support future development of the 4 acres to the south when the time and opportunity presents itself to be able to do so. We have with us this evening the representative of the development group developing the property, and also their legal counsel who is guiding them on the TIF request.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all again. I'm Matt McKenna. If you guys don't remember, I met you guys, I think, a few months ago, and this is my legal counsel.
Kip Wallers with Ice Miller from Columbus.
Great, thank you.
So Chris did a pretty good job of kind of explaining the situation, but when we purchased the property, it was indicated that we would have access to public utilities. It turns out that those drawings were incorrect. So we are looking for this TIF. Like Chris said, we are going to be extending the water and sewer lines. We have met with the school district as a courtesy. As part of this process, they have been notified. Their formal approval is not required for this specific form of a TIF, but they have given us verbal consent that they are okay with it. We also are requesting the TIF be approved at the second reading once the school council district has notification and comment period has lapsed, so we can proceed with the work at the earliest possible date.
Great, thank you.
The TIF itself would be for 10 years. It's a 75% exemption. It would run until the cost of the public improvements have been reimbursed. I think we're estimating that that cost is somewhere around $300,000, maybe a little bit less. So in reality, probably the TIF will run for about 7 years.
Okay, great. All right. Are there questions from commissioners? Comments? No?
No?
Are there any citizen comments or questions? Okay. The service payments, again, are set up, and they will be paid into the Miami County Treasurer?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Want to make sure. Very good, that's all I had. If there are no other questions,
First reading.
we will have the second reading then at the next meeting. So we appreciate your coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Moving ahead to resolution number R-109-23.
A resolution adopting the 2024 through 2028 strategic plan.
Good evening, Commission. So we embarked this year on a new strategic plan update. As you know, we met with the community members on several occasions. We also had interviews with the appointed and elected officials, with the consultant to do some data mining, as well as the leadership team and the commission had the retreat, which I thought went very well. And from that outcome, we came up with 4 focus areas. The 4 focus areas and strategic outcome would be unified community, responsive services, a thriving community, and reliable infrastructure. And so this document kind of encompasses those core beliefs, and so this will be our charter as we move forward and develop budgets in our years starting in '24. We'll be tying these outcome areas back to our budget so that it's apparent to the community where we're making, investments.
Okay. Great. Are there any comments?
Are all these documents on website for people to review?
It'll be posted, the actual strategic plan will be posted tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
No comments or questions? Citizen comments or questions?
Hello, Paige Steeman. I live out on corner of Madison and Cherry. My question or comment is for the people behind us to please talk into the microphone, because when we're rewatching the city commission meetings, we can't hear anything anybody's saying because they're standing back here. So if anybody behind me, if you guys could please talk into the microphone so that anybody rewatching this can hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. If they don't, we'll remind them.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Make a
I
motion
think
to
we have,
adopt
yep.
resolution number,
Wait,
Oh,
we
sorry.
got public comment.
Hi, everyone. My name's Natalie Young, 1234 Marwood Drive. I was just curious if this document is the only document that came out of this, or if there's a much more detailed strategic plan.
No, there's a 16-page document, and I have a copy if you like it. It'll be posted tomorrow. Essentially, it's the result of the consultants' work with the city, both the elected officials, appointed officials, and the leadership team, and the culmination of the data collected by the community.
It's just the one that's included in the packet?
Yes.
Okay, I was just curious. It was very not detailed as far as what the actual strategy is going to be. And one of the things that is talked about a lot from both the citizens and just in like the cover letter, talking about the things that make Piqua so great, discusses the parks. And we constantly have this discussion about the parks not having nearly enough funding to continue to operate. And so I just wanted to address that.
Sure, and I can just tell you, this is the high-level 30,000-foot. We haven't developed the tactics and implementation strategy that would address those concerns in the budget. That'll be coming forward as we refine this and our team works on it going into the budget in '24.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Chris, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-109-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Resolution number R-109-23 is approved. Resolution number R-110-23.
A resolution approving the tax rates for the city as determined by the Miami County Budget Commission.
Good evening. Charlotte Colley, Interim Finance Director. Every year around this time, we request an approval of the certified tax rates, which will be used to levy property tax on all general duplicates for 2023, which will be collected in 2024. These certified rates require the approval of our commission and certification to Miami County before October 1st of 2023. Passage of this will allow the city to continue to receive collection of property tax revenue from the county. These revenues are extremely important to the general fund and the day-to-day operations of the city.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commission? Any questions or comments from citizens? I move that we adopt resolution number R-110-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number R-110-23 is approved. Resolution number R-111-23.
A resolution approving an investment policy for the city of Piqua.
This particular resolution is going to be postponed. I would recommend that we make a motion to postpone it.
I'll make a motion that we postpone resolution number R-111-23.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, yeah.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. What date?
That's the next motion.
Oh, okay.
Opposed? All right. The motion to postpone is approved. Now we need to postpone it to a particular date. So we need a motion to postpone it to October 17th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. This particular resolution has been postponed to October 17th, 2023 commission meeting. Resolution number R-112-23.
A resolution creating a capital improvement fund for the Scott Drive redevelopment project for the city of Piqua.
Thank you. The approval of O-11-23 at your last commission meeting created a debt service fund for the special obligation non-tax revenue bond series 2023. However, the city must also create a capital improvement fund to record the revenue from the note and track the use of the funds. Passage of this will allow the city to create the Scott Drive redevelopment project capital improvement fund going forward.
Are there any comments or questions from commissioners?
This just allows us to create a fund from which the funds can be drawn from. That's
Correct. We need a fund to capture the revenue from the bond.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Citizens' comments or questions?
Jeff Grimes, 1314 Maplewood Drive. So the Scott Drive is going to get its funds from the school? Is that correct? Schools? Isn't that where we're getting the $2 million from for this project, right?
No.
No. No.
You want to explain it?
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with the TIF for Scott Drive.
The hotel and the proposed, what was it, Olive Garden possibly? Is that what we're talking about, or am I mistaken?
No, I think you're talking about the wrong issue.
Scott Drive is where the speedway and stuff is out by the interstate?
Oh, the capital improvement fund, I see where you're at, okay. So yes, the Scott Drive redevelopment project, it's basically creating a funding line, and the schools are not paying for that.
And where are we getting this money from?
In terms of right now, we're just creating the fund.
And where do we plan on getting the money from?
The funds were already approved last meeting.
And that was the $2 million from the schools?
That's
No.
not from the schools. The schools are not paying for this.
So I'm completely,
If you'd like clarification, I'd be happy to meet with you and walk you through it.
I'm just concerned that if it is from I understood that the Board of Education is going to take a tax hit of $2 million, and it was going to be bonds issued. But 3 or 4 years ago, our school system was broke. We had couldn't bus the kids. They were threatened with not being able to be bused. So how is the school able to loan money to a private project? That's my question.
They're not loaning the money to a private project. The funding is independent of the school system, and the item before us tonight is to set up a capital improvement fund to receive the TIF financing, which is basically whatever the improvement is, in lieu of paying the taxes, that's what's going to fund the improvements. And it's a very complicated issue, and I'd be happy to sit down and discuss it with you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Are there any comments, other comments or questions? I make a motion that we adopt resolution number R-112-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution number R-112-23 is approved. Resolution number R-113-23.
A resolution creating a capital improvement fund for the Lock 9 Park Improvement Project for the city of Piqua.
The approval of O-9-23 at your last commission meeting created a debt service fund for the Park Improvement Note Series 2023. However, the city must also create a capital improvement fund to record the revenue from the note and track the use of these funds. This is very similar to the last resolution that you're seeing. We just need to create those capital improvement funds to take on that revenue. So the passage of this will allow the city to create the Lock 9 Park Improvement Project Capital Improvement Fund for the city.
And so this is just to take the money, the check and balance of what we've already set aside.
Yes, it will allow us to take that money in and then also track it throughout the year as it's spent down.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Sure. Citizens' comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-113-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution number R-113-23 is approved. It is now time for public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the City Commission regarding agenda items, issues, or to provide information. Comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes, and specific questions should be addressed to the city manager's office. Come on up.
Gary Koenig, 5 Peregrine Place, candidate for Ward 5 Piqua City Commissioner. I was pleased that you postponed until next month the investment policy. I went through the investment policy. I personally feel it's a great idea to take your funds and invest it. You have to have surplus of funds, and you're going to have that. What my only concern, and the idea of a financial advisor doing it, another lot of good checks there. The only question is that it said that all the funds that would accrue from the investments would be deposited in the general fund. And I would ask that you reconsider that and have the investment policy edited to allow the funds to be prorated to the utilities funds and the general funds. I think that there is there was no chart in there which would show the amount of enterprise utility funds relative to general funds. But I believe, I'm not seeing any chart, that it's quite a bit greater on the enterprise funds, because that was what a report we saw a couple months ago, than it is in the general fund. So I would estimate, I don't know the number, but I would say 80% of the funds that are going to result from these investments are going to go to the general fund as opposed to going to the utility fund. I think a better idea would be to take these funds from the investment, which are used for emergencies or whatever, but you have it available, and lower utility rates. And as I go around campaigning in the city, that is the topic that always comes up, either one or two, with the citizens. So I would ask that you consider taking those funds and putting them in the utility funds. I really think that taking funds from the utility fund and then taking the interest and putting it in the general fund, I question whether that's even ethical, because the people that are, paying the utilities and they're low income, it's probably 15 to 20% of their annual income. The people that are higher income that supporting the general fund projects through property tax, sales tax, and income tax, they pay based on higher income. It's a progressive tax. If you take the money from the utilities, it seems to me more like a regressive tax. And I would ask that you consider prorating to the applicable funds and then establishing some methodology to review the rates and lower the utility rates. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. So thank you, Mr. Koenig, for the bringing that up. So the way that it functions, the way that the the way that the funds have to be received would be through the general fund, and so that's what the policy is dictating. Any reuse or use of those funds would go back through. It would definitely be a discussion with the utility boards, the power board, and then certainly before the commission at that point where those funds are reallocated. So it's not a blind, it's not putting it into a black hole. So the way that it's structured and it's following the state auditor's guidelines is that the funds have to be received back into the general fund and then be redistributed. And that's just all for accounting purposes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
Chuck Starrett, Deming Road. I got a question on these funds. You have a utility fund, you have an electric fund, water fund, so on. I don't understand how you can take money out of the electric fund, which I thought a while back was an independent fund. They were self-supporting. Now all of a sudden we can take money out of there and pork barrel it to some other project. I don't understand how that's being done. My understanding was these funds are separate, and I see over the years I've watched borrowed money from this fund to that fund, but I never see where it's paid back. I never see where a resolution says we received the money back or whatever. So the citizens keep paying more fees and the funds keep going down, but it's not going back into the utility. It's going back to wherever they spent it. And it's not bringing general income back to the city. So my concern is we don't take money to make a levy bank that brings no income in to support a local bar or whatever, to use the money for that. It should be put, like Gary was saying, go back into the fund and create a fund that you can, once a year, you can go over it and maybe give the people a little break on their utilities, a little partial credit for a month's utilities or something like that. You got the money. If it's a utility money or a profit or extra money, it should be support the people that paid it. Don't use it for somebody's project or somebody else's thing. That's my point. And I think if you get the progress in the right places, everything will work out better. But it just seems like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul all the time. And that concerns me. That's why you're having the financial issues you're having now. And I believe the only way I see it bringing business in is if you say, come on in, we'll pay you to come here. We'll get you a building, we'll pay you, we'll give you tax breaks, we'll do this, we'll do that. Then they come in. Well, if they don't make it, who's out? We are. And that's the whole thing. We're locked into issues that I don't think we should be involved in. It's not up to the school to sacrifice any kind of funds. School taxes are the biggest percentage of our property taxes. Now we're giving away money or letting them, hold it back for so long before they get the rest of it. What if it don't come back? These corporations you're loaning the money to a corporation. If they fold up and walk out, who are you going after? It's folded up. You got nothing. You got no security there. There's no individual. It's a corporation. So it doesn't make sense to stick your neck out for this stuff. If these businesses are so good and they've been in business for years and they build hotels or whatever they do, let them buy the property and invest it yourself. But I would come in too if I had a business. If you come in and say, I'll take care of everything for you, I'll pay for it. That's what we're doing. That needs to stop. That's all I have. Thank you.
I just have a question, sir. Mr. Sterrett, I'm sorry, what was your address?
4244 Deming Road.
Is that in the city?
No.
So you live in the township?
Yeah.
So, these matters are for residents above, in front of the commission, and so I'm just trying to understand your perspective, because you're speaking as though you're a resident of the city.
But over the years, my investments in properties in this city affect my tenants and affect my property taxes and all these things that are partially going into these funds.
Right,
Okay?
So to your point earlier about the TIF funds and the financing with the schools without economic development.
Well, I pay for school taxes.
I'm not talking about the school taxes, I'm talking about the economic development incentives that you were speaking of earlier, right? So without those economic development incentives, we get nothing. And it's every community in the state and across the country, companies are being competed from state to state, and, basically they go to the place that has the best incentives. So the schools and the school board, as well as Upper Valley, they passed the legislation to allow that, knowing that getting 25% on a 2070 or 2575 is better than zero, knowing that in the future, when they get out that 10 years, they're going to be collecting those funds.
My understanding was this property will pay no property tax. So if you don't pay any property tax, they're not paying any school tax either. And what little bit of income comes off the employees won't be nothing.
No, the TIF is very complicated, and again, I'd be happy to sit down and speak to you about it, but it's not that they don't pay any property taxes. Right.
I'm just pointing out over the issues what we have, and I'm not, I know a lot of these people have the same questions, but they don't speak up, or they don't want to come forward. They don't understand how to pronounce it or to propose it. I'm just pointing it out, that I think the city could do a lot better if they would change the ways they do things. That's all.
I appreciate that, but if you'd like to sit down with me, just let me know.
Okay.
Ava Silvers, 319 3rd. I just want to ask, what's the end goal for the community? What is our end goal? You pointed out the 4 points for the strategic plan. But what is the ultimate end goal for our community? And I say that because as citizens, as community members, we're all confused. We are completely confused because we come to these meetings time after time and we hear, like with the rental registration, it's a safety issue. We cannot have it both ways. I've been here, I've been screaming about the kids, I've been talking about the parks. It's going nowhere. The parks are still a mess. We're still, $5.8 million to Lock 9. What's the end goal for our community? Because it's the hypocrisy for me. It is saying that we are a community that is safeguarding and we have safety issues, but the things that we're allowing and we're condoning are things that are definitely not safe in our community. There are things that are toxins in our community. There are things that we're bringing in. Our fire department just recently got their appropriate and up-to-date breathing apparatuses. We still have no ladder truck. We have no business sinking any money into a project, whether it be downtown and or anywhere else, and claiming that we're doing all of this in the name of safety, because here's what our image looks like right now. Come to Tree City. It's a destination place. But if I come to Tree City, to the destination place that doesn't have a ladder truck, I can enjoy the riverfront. I can also potentially enjoy the quarry dust. I can enjoy the toxins in the river from the battery burns. What are we really doing? That's all I have to say. I want everybody to solely think about something beyond the seat and title that you hold and beyond bank accounts. I want you to seriously think, if you believe in your heart of hearts that one mere human being has the authority or any right to dictate on another's life what potentially they could be exposed to. I'm all for safety. But when we start talking about things that may not be safe, and I understand industrial carries risk, but industrial also carries job potential and things that people are highly regulating. That's not what's going on here. We're literally getting this through at us, that through at us, and all of it collides. It all collides. You can't say we're a community of safety and we're going green and we're Tree City and we have a destination place, but then we're allowing silica dust and we're allowing, the batteries, we're allowing our parks to be dilapidated, and we're investing so much money into a riverfront for what? Who's going to come here? Who wants to go in the river now? We can walk all the way across it. I just did with my grandson the other day and made him wear his shoes for the first time in 45 years because I'm not sure what's in that water. I mean, I really think that everybody on every board in this community needs to understand something. You guys hold these seats for a while, and maybe your families have grown and moved up. But there are a lot of us that love this community, and we're not leaving. We're long-term here. And our grandkids are here, and we care about what happens, because it won't be those that leave or their children who left. It will be the rest of us to face the consequences for the decisions everybody allowed while screaming safety but ignoring it.
Roland Sour Mill, 660 South Street. Go to Paul. Paul, hey, talking. You tell him he don't have no right. You come from Virginia somewhere. My philosophy is that guy right there, we don't see eye to eye sometimes, but he stays in his city. If you was any good, you'd be down there in Virginia. If you was any good for Virginia, you wouldn't have to come up here and try to change this town here. That's where I feel about people coming to different towns to do a job. You don't know what goes on in this town before you come in this town. Then you got to listen to these people. You got to listen to all these people. You don't know. This guy knows what's going on in this town, even though, But he don't go to no other town, does he? Get a job? You had to. They must not like you down there, though. I can think. My thing is, anybody goes town to town and get jobs must not be no good. And that's my opinion I got.
Hello, Natalie Young, again, 1234 Marwood Drive. So back to the strategic plan, I just wanted to read a couple of the things that I had written down as I was reading through it, because I think a lot of that of what these people are speaking about kind of ties into that. So our community profile says residents of Piqua enjoy a high quality of life with a variety of recreational activities. The city boasts numerous parks, including the picturesque Fountain Park and Loch 9 Riverfront Park, which provide beautiful settings for outdoor activities such as picnicking, hiking, and boating. And then as it moves on through the rest of the plan, it refers to the environmental area, and it says Piqua's natural environment is one of the keys to its attractiveness and livability. Focus group participants and survey respondents value the natural beauty of Piqua's locations, the city's 17 parks for recreation, and many outdoor amenities. It goes on, in the economic section to talk about, a lack of funding. It was discussed by the commission in general, which is necessary for the programs, and the need for a higher maintenance standard for city-owned property and infrastructure. In the community input section, it talks about our hopes. It refers to the pavilion being saved, and updated parks, issues, pavilion again, which is Fountain Park, opportunities identified, maintained parks, pool for youth. It goes on and on. I'm skipping a lot of things, obviously, economic development and some of those kinds of things. But I think in terms of the $5.8 million that everyone's so upset about, I was here for the whole pool discussion. I was also here for the entire utility discussion. I was sort of treated inappropriately in terms of, not able to understand the need for meeting the loan covenants and things like that in terms of being able to pay back the debt for the wastewater and the water treatment plants. I'm pretty sure that it said that the $5.8 million was coming from the wastewater. Is that what was said last commission meeting, or was it electric?
Sewer fund, correct.
The sewer fund, okay. So I think just in general, we couldn't get $1 to save the pool. And this was a different administration. Granted, it was a different city commissioner at the time, but we couldn't get $1 to save the pool. And everybody wants the pool, everybody wanted the pool to stay, and we were told that it was, not salvageable. And so in terms of just what we're doing with the strategic plan and what we have come together supposedly as a community, put this strategic plan together, I don't agree with the way that some people come up here and address the commission and the city administration. I think everyone needs to maintain a level of respect, but that is also a two-way street. So I would like everyone to continue to maintain that. But I think that in terms of this whole battery situation and in terms of this funding for the Loch 9, Eva, I think her name is right in terms of it is kind of like, what are we doing here? There's a lot going, where there's a lot of self-contradiction. So I will digress. The only thing I would like to say, because I'm sure everyone's here to talk about the batteries as well, is that I don't need any type of scientific research to tell me that there's no good that can come from that being next to our fresh water. So, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, Department Heads. Jeff Lang, 9586 North State Route 66. I'm usually here talking to you about water and picking trash out of the water, but tonight I'm here talking to you about the air. There has been a lot of people come up to me asking me about what's going on at the old water plant. And I try to tell them as best I can what I think is going on, which I have a few things wrong because I haven't been keeping up on the subject completely. But it's my understanding that somewhere around 2018, the city applied for a permit from RAPCA, which is our local Ohio EPA air quality sublet group out of Dayton, to monitor air quality and open burning and any kind of thing to do with burning for an 8-county Southwest Ohio area, which means the Ohio EPA air quality group must be understaffed to have a third party do their work for them. But in talking with the director of RAPCA this afternoon, after talking with the principal of ESRG, the group that is overseeing the burning out at the old water plant, I have a few questions that I'd like answered. First of all, in 2018, the application was a 3745-1903, which was an open and burn permit with a D2 subheading, which means fire department training. but it's called an open burn permit. After much discussion with the public finding out some of the things they're burning out there, there seems to be a lot more attention to ESRG and to RAPCA. And after speaking with RAPCA today and the director of that group, it seems that they should have applied for an LAC Rule 3745-31, which is open burning of industrial permit. So open burning permit is a lot of different things, but not industrial products. The permit they said you should have achieved, it should have been a 3745-31 industrial permit. The fires that I have personally seen after going by there many times on the bike path, in my car, since I live out that way, are big, billowing black smoke going up into the atmosphere and whichever way the wind blows. I repeat, whichever way the wind blows. There's no control of the wind. About a year and a half ago, my wife and I were coming back from out of town, saw an open fire at the location that I'm talking about, went up our lane, overlooked to the left, Swift Run Lake. There was about a 50-foot thick, blue, whitish haze over the lake, only the lake. It was probably a temperature inversion where the hot exhaust smoke from the fire went up, reached cool temperatures, and fell down over our lake. Swift Run Lake is one of three raw water sources the water department pulls out. We stopped at the bridge, rolled down our windows, rolled our windows right back up because we could not stand to inhale the obnoxious odor coming off of that blue haze. I have seen fires burning out of control at night, dead night. When that location opened up for permit burning, there were two 20-foot corrugated steel cargo boxes that you see on ocean-going ships. There was doors cut on the end. There was little ventilation boxes on it. Fires were burning in those boxes. You could see the black smoke coming out of the exhaust stack. Firefighters in fire gear with helmets and respirators and hoses and fire extinguishers would go into these boxes and put those fires out. That was a few years ago. Those boxes are long gone. Now things are under blue and white tarps. They're up on that concrete pad. The principal of ESRG has told me that these pads are drain basin to the middle, and all the liquids used to put out the fires are caught in the basin and meticulously monitored and hauled off with approved transporters to a facility in Columbus where they are taken care of properly. But my question again then is, if we had a 3745-1903 D2 fire training exemption for open burning permit, and then I hear from RAPCA today, the director, that it should have been an LAC Rule 3745-31 for industrial permit for those types of products for fire training and learning from those, did we have the wrong permit in the first place? My next questions concern RAPCA. Supposedly they will be in town Thursday with Ohio EPA to visit the site itself. During open burning permit, the first one they applied for, there is a setback of 1,000 feet for communities that are under 1,000 population at their city limits. So you have to be outside of 1,000 feet. For communities 10,000 population or over, you have to be outside of 1 mile. The director of ESRG told me that that is not a requirement because this is a live fire training and research, and the permit does not have to account for a 1,000-foot requirement or the 1 mile requirement if you have over 10,000 people. He's also told me that battery failures are 2 stages, gaseous and poorly ventilated component that typically short-lived but responsible for 98% of the ground level smoke and odor. And that when fully involved into phase 2, they typically burn pretty clean and vents vertically. Typically burns pretty clean and vents vertically, except when the wind blows. Okay? I don't understand also the encapsulation of a $400,000 grant administered, I guess, by the state of Ohio to BGSU and how that money has been used. I also don't understand why this group, ESRG, has a 10-year lease with the city of Piqua to use this facility with an option to go to 20 years to continue burning things that I personally think should not be burnt. But I understand the fire departments need to learn how to fight things, especially electric vehicles. But there's got to be more placement on where you put this so that it's not affecting businesses on State Route 66, residents on State Route 66, residents on Tall Pines Way that are all within 1,000 foot. You cannot control the way the wind blows. So when these things are emitted and that wind blows sideways, those people in those houses are breathing that in.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Scott Phillips, 9640 Piqua Lockington Road, which is in Spring Creek Township.
Oh.
I'm glad I'm there, okay? I'm not exactly proud of this meeting tonight. My gosh. We fought hard to get a new water plant to improve the quality of the water in our town, and we found out we didn't have wells. Yeah, we have wells, but they're tainted by a super fund between Troy and Piqua. Yay, team. Troy dumps 1.6 million gallons of water, tainted water, into the Great Miami River every day. It's on the website. That's why we decided not to go to Troy and partner with them. Now, we could have gone to Sydney to partner with Sydney, but it was too far. It was 3.3 miles to the aquifer behind Lockington Dam. So we're stuck with surface water. Your drinking water here in the city of Piqua, 65% of it comes from Rocky Ridge Lake. That's a lake I take care of. That's a lake that my wife and all the neighbors have planted thousands of trees and tall native grasses and do not use chemicals for a reason. We don't mind a few weeds in the yard. The grass gets nitrogen when it rains. These are little things that you learn when you have a degree in natural resources. I'm a forester with a specialist qualification in hydrology. Yeah, you can't have forests without water. You can't have life without water. So now that we're stuck with surface water for our drinking water supply, we don't have wells. That means the smoke that we're launching into our atmosphere is ending up in our drinking water. And yes, we have state-of-the-art plant to remove it. Point is, we can take care of that watershed better, reduce costs, and the time that it takes to process that water. Quality of life goes up for everybody in the community, okay? Now, the council didn't know this because I don't see a single one of you that was here in this room when the Ohio EPA and Don Freisteller and Bertner, the director, said to this group, do you know of any brownfield contamination sites? We've drilled these test wells, and we have one really good well out on land that's now owned by Johnston Farm. It's getting over 1 million gallons a day. City of Piqua uses about 3 million gallons a day, more or less. So I raised my hand. I said, this is strange. But you see the aerial photo there? You know why there are no trees growing there? There were 44 55-gallon drums of carbon tetrachloride buried there. Some people know that. The test well that the city of Piqua was so excited about, that was the only one that came up with that kind of volume, went right through that burial site. And I said to Freisteller, hey, well, what did it show up on carbon tet? Something you don't want to drink unless you want to grow body parts, and not good ones. He said, well, we don't know. Now, this is the guy who was running the water system. We don't know. We didn't test for that. Are you kidding me? Okay, so I'm going to cut to the chase. The Ohio EPA at that meeting laid out restricted zones. There was a 500-foot zone and there's a 1,000-foot zone where you are not allowed to do toxic burns. You are not allowed to do toxic dumps. Guess what? This site where we're burning batteries is right up, and I measured it. It's 312 feet to the canal, which is part of our drinking water reservoir. It's in that 500-foot exclusion zone. They are not in compliance, and this town is about to get fined seriously unless they comply with the rules that allowed us to build our new water treatment plant. Those are the rules. Okay, look it up on EPA. So the burns have to stop based on that alone because it's for water treatment plant. And I beseech you, I live downwind. I take care of Rocky Ridge Lake along with 5 other families. When the winds are wrong, I can't take my dogs outside. Seriously, it's nasty stuff. I don't care how they dress it up. I can guarantee you when they're burning, they have all the gear that we don't have. Yay team. And at the end of the day, I'm still downwind from that plant that goes over the Great Miami River as well, which provides about 30% of our drinking water. About 5% of it comes from Swift Run. So please, do the right thing. Just make this burn plant go away. I know there are a lot of good reasons to it, but after 5 years of research, I think the fire department has figured out how to put out these battery fires by now. Seriously.
Debbie Stein, 1810 Carroll Drive. My question to you, if you don't mind answering it, is why do you want to have these burns in our community? What value is it to you and us as citizens? I mean, may I ask it in a different format? Do you like this idea of burning in our community? I know people have gone by there and have seen the black toxic is, I shouldn't use that, but the plumes, and they've called 911 thinking it's a fire. We're bringing in lithium-ion batteries, and I looked at the MOU, Chris, I found it. From 2018. I remember reading it because I was very interested in it at the time, and I reread it. And my assumption in reading that was it was going to be a training facility for our fire department. Rope rescue, containment, that of the likes of Reynoldsburg. And the addendum, the attachment to that was they were going to be testing batteries. So when you look at that, and you speak to people in former administration, you say, testing batteries, did this mean burn at the time? Was the intention to burn batteries? And the answers and the looks were no. I don't believe so. Then all of a sudden we have a resolution and we bring in battery, we're bringing in battery after battery. How many batteries do you have to burn and test? And then we're going to have on 25A potential silica dust from the quarry, if that happens to be. And then we're going to have this facility that's bringing in the lithium-ion batteries to continue to store them, the volatile batteries, which means they're going to disintegrate, they're going to explode, they're going to fall apart, they're going to drop carcinogens into the ground, leach into the ground. Out here on 25A, we're going to start hauling them in until they can be brought over here and burnt and destroyed. Why in the world do we want this for the city of Piqua? Do you see Troy scattering to come and get this kind of a contract for $500 a month and $600 a burn? We look like idiots. And I just want you guys to think about it, pull it back if you have to. Think about family members. I have a family member dying right now of cancer. And it doesn't have any being here in commission, but I'm telling you, it's horrific. Our cancer rates in this community, talking to physicians, they say, what is happening in Piqua? What is going on? Is it a hot spot? Because the cancer rate in this town alone is high. And then we bring in stuff like this, It has no being in the city of Piqua, and I'm asking you to think about what was done and pull it back. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Diane Park, 4380 Brunson. I started looking through everything when I found this out. And I found the MOU, and I found all these different partners. It was confusing for me because I'm like, I thought we were told it was Bowling Green. But Bowling Green was the service provider for DMV. And DMV is a large company. So that kind of was deceitful in a way to me. But so DMV, huge. So there's people, they even say they're testing solar PVC here at our training center that we were told. All different things were alternative energy storage. I found, I think, 7 different names for our location. So alternative energy can mean biomass. It can mean, oh, I can't believe you guys did this. Anyways, then I find out that Mr. Warner actually was an employee at DMV and made his company right along the side. And we're the ones, they have standard testing and non-standard testing. Guess what? We do the non-standard testing. Oh. And then we have Rescue Methods doing all their things there. There's been 8 or 9 companies out there. There's the building. This is way back. Who paid for this building? I've got pictures of it being built. So when Mr. Warner was here in 2018, started, and you had Bowling Green only as a service provider. Bowling Green's not there. They're just providing services for all these people. So that was kind of deceitful. But here's the building being burned. Who paid for this? Then we have the permit. And at the September 5th commission meeting, he was talking about lithium being a beast. It eludes us. And we're trying to, you know, the fumes go outside and smoke outside the fence, and we're trying to figure out what they are. And he said, I know it's a nuisance. People drive through that smoke. The terms say that he isn't to be a nuisance, and in his own words, he said he was. It needs pulled, gone. He said it. Was anybody supposed to measure how far to the water, to the park, to homes, to businesses? Because all I had to do was go to Google Map and drag it. It's 150 feet to the water. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. Let's see whose home this is. Beautiful homes. Oh no, this is actually Hampshire. Oh my gosh, a company where I've heard they're smelling stuff. Their equipment has to be shut down. It's only 868 feet. I don't care what somebody else says about the feet. that it's okay, but from what I've read, it's not allowed. And matter of fact, they say it shouldn't be by a town at least 10 to 20 miles. Oh, the beautiful homes, tall pines. I can do different, really drag it towards out front, 859 feet, 786 feet, 900, I mean, really stretching it, 987 feet. I didn't do everybody's home. I feel bad. The dog park. People are gonna love this. 566 feet. They don't like that kind of stuff. They're also letting their dogs drink out of that water, and I wouldn't do that. So, right here I have Nick with his energy storage research group, and his previous job was DMV. He says GL, which that was their name until 2021, and they dropped the GL and went to DMV.
Excuse me, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
That's fine, except for I do have to say you should check where they used to have their business, because you told us that it was a fire department in a school. I Google Earthed it. There's nothing there. There's no school. There's no fire department. His business partner's there, but that's it. I have more, but that's probably good enough.
Hello, my name is Pam Campbell. I live at 9125 North State Route 66, right next door to the burn. It appalls me that this is how we find out that we are breathing for many years toxic chemicals right next door. We were never told anything about this. My husband works at Hampshire Cabinets across the street. They had to close one day because the fumes were so bad. With all the employees breathing this, they had to close their business and send them home. What effect do you think that had on them that day? We find out we're breathing this for many years, and we're not told. I mean, first, this is the first time I've come to a city council meeting, and I've lived here for 25 years. My husband's alive. He's lived in Piqua his whole life. We don't complain. We pay our taxes. We own our home. And this is how we're treated. I'm just very upset knowing this is our neighbor doing this. You know, what if it was your home? What was next door to you? Would you feel differently about this? I'm sure you would.
My name is Tammy Neves. I live at 9312 Fessler Buxton Road, Piqua zip code, Shelby County, Lockington, 3 miles. I don't know how many times we have had to not go outside to do yard work, take care of our animals, people in Lockington wondering what's going on because of the fumes coming that far. And like they said, when the wind's blowing, you have no control. And I am just ashamed because I grew up in this town, I have family in this town. And I know some of you who have grown up in this town. You know we went to school together. I went to school with your father. Do you want this for your children in the future of this town? I am appalled and ashamed and disgusted.
Chuck Starrett, 4244 Deming Road. By the way, I do live out of the city limits, but those fumes come to my house too. I've smelled them. And I wasn't aware of that burning going on. I've been here, that's been going on all those years. And if they poison my well, shame on all of you, because I'm coming. That's all I got to say.
Paige Steeman. I live out in the north end on the corner of Madison and Cherry. I don't know how long this has been going on, but I recently had planted a garden this year that I could not understand for the life of me what was going on. I had always been, usually I had to move everything out of my back of my garden to the side of my house, and it had to put all my plants. As soon as I put my plants right up the side against my house, my plants began to grow again. Now, I'm not sure if I've tied these two together or if they could be tied together, but they've got chemical burns on them. You can see by looking at the leaves that there's something chemically that's falling on my raspberry bushes, my grapevines that I was growing. So I don't know, I've never seen this type of chemical burn on that, but you know, I understand the need to test and respond, but we need to speak out for our children, and we can't recover a penny from these batteries. And I know that we need to test and respond for that, but we need to also look at who's mining, take a look at how these toxins are mined and by who is doing the mining for those. And maybe we should also arm our fire department with a ladder truck so they can adequately, you know, have that equipment to them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make a comment real quick, because I live in your area, and so these have been going on for 5 years. My garden's been growing fine, not playing, you know, devil's advocate any which way, so I don't think those are correlated. My question, though, is, and I don't know if it can be answered, from the 5 years, I haven't heard a single complaint as commissioner or what the issues were. I know that's came to light. Yeah, but that's my question. Has something changed over the 5 years? Has anything, the burns, like nobody's brought it up to me, not being anything that's local or close by? I'm honestly asking.
Commissioner Grissom, let me address your questions. I probably go by that area 2 or 3 times every day, okay? And Chief Polsnyder will tell you, I brought it up at commission a couple years ago when he first talked about the $400,000 grant for the fire center out there. And if the chief will remember, I asked him about the blue whitish haze over Swift Run Lake, and he assured me everything was fine, all the permits were fine and whatever. And as I stated earlier, the permit they filed for in 2018 was one type of permit for open burning with firefighter amendment. They didn't get the right permit according to RAPCA today. They should have got one for industrial open burning. But I still think that you cannot burn those types of things this close proximity to residences and businesses. Inside lithium-ion batteries is manganese. Dust and fumes or in solution, when that happens, when your body overdoses, it's called magnesium. Symptoms include those similar to Parkinson's disease, may be included trembling, stiffness, slow motor movement. Cobalt is in batteries, element cobalt. It also causes asthma-like allergies. Future exposure can cause asthma attacks, shortness of breath, wheezing, cough, whatever. Also in lithium-ion batteries is nickel, a lot of nickel. Exposure to this silvery white metal can cause irritation to skin. Exposure can cause harm to lungs, stomach, and kidneys. Also, when you are burning a lithium-ion battery, hydrogen fluoride is produced. Hydrogen fluoride is the strongest acid in the whole chemical arena. It cannot even be stored in glass because it etches glass. That is released, okay? Hydrogen sulfide is released. In a typical lithium-ion battery, there is different substrates for the anode and cathode. One of the most popular ones is lithium cobalt oxide. Next one is lithium nickel cobalt aluminum oxide. The next one is lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide. Next one is lithium manganese oxide. Next one is lithium iron phosphate. When those batteries run away with one cell and the next cell catches, it's called a runaway fire. And when it's a runaway fire and these people see big plumes of black smoke, that's a runaway. Now, Mr. Warner said that most of the fires or the testing is done before it goes to fire. I would contend that even though there may be a few fires, they're damn big ones with a lot of pollutants. So they're out there. And I have brought it up at commission, okay, that blue whitish haze. But it started out just burning in boxes and a few firefighters around with the proper apparatus going inside a box and fighting a fire. Those boxes are long gone. After every fire I've seen, it looks like a runaway fire, because the next morning when I go by, the case that the stuff was burned in is completely melted down. The steel is melted down to the ground. And you can see it easily from the bike path, from the back side of it. One of the answers I was told by RAPCA is that, well, we can't control the air. Yeah, but one of the answers he also gave me was, well, the wind usually doesn't come out of the east to get to the homes on Tall Pines Way. Really? The wind typically doesn't come out of the east. It does come out of the west and north. When it comes out of the west and north, those people that just spoke up here in that business, they're the ones that suffer. And they're within 500 or 600 feet. And what Mr. Phillips was talking about, that 500-foot area, that's called an Ohio EPA Source Water Protection Plan. The city of Piqua has one. Freisteller is proud he had it. It's still on file. That draw-off put into lake and taken out of the lake is right across from the city pier, about 50 foot out from city pier. If you don't believe me, go out there and take a look at it. And when they're pumping in, you'll see the water boil right there. That is 250 feet away from this burn site. And even though Swift Run might be only 5% of the raw water usage for the city of Piqua, it's also used as a drinking water storage to pull out of the water, kick it up to Swift Run, then when the electric rates change, then they can kick it the rest of the way up the hill to the holding tanks to the new water plant. So think of Swift Run as a drinking cup that you just keep on filling up and down. Even though you say you only use 3 or 5% out of it, it's continually having water levels in and out of it from the river and from Rocky Ridge Lake. So,
Thank you.
I leave you to think about that. There's some very, very nasty things in lithium-ion batteries and in those harnesses and everything. You all need to reconsider what you have done and undo it and get rid of this facility. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, that's what I'm asking.
Hi, my name is Brad Hampshire, 1107 Lennox Street in Piqua. I'm a minority owner of the Hampshire Company, right across the street from where all these burns have been taking place. I wanted to answer your question. You said, how come people haven't spoken up in the past? And I think mostly it's because, we were right across there. I've been breathing this for 5 years. Didn't know what we were breathing. When we asked about it, it was, we're doing firefighting drills. And we were like, well, they got to do that. So it is what it is. I do know within the last year, it's gotten worse.
Okay.
It has gotten stronger. I don't know if they're doing something different, if they're burning more, if they're doing bigger batteries, if they're, I don't know what's happening, but we used to smell, and we would get that, so we equated it to when you have like a ballast and a light in your shop go bad, that plastic melting, burning smell, and that has been going on for years. But it would happen, and we were like, which one of our lights are we having a problem with? And we would go around, try and find an area in the shop, and we couldn't figure out exactly where that smell was coming from. And so finally somebody would go outside and be like, it's coming from outside. And like, oh, they must be burning something. Then so we start hypothesizing, well, what is it? Well, it must just be like, the paint from the container that they're burning it in or something like that. At no time did anybody come by and say, hey, we're going to be burning this super toxic stuff that's pluming into the air. Now, I did not notice, you could smell it outside, but you couldn't see the smoke, like plumes of it. Like within the last few months to maybe 6 months ago, that's when we started seeing it coming down and filling the field across the street from us. And that this is, sometimes it's happened when they're already out, because sometimes they leave at 2:30. We're still in the office working, and we got the air conditioner pulling air in there. But as far as the shop goes, we've been working a lot of overtime this summer, so they're till 5 o'clock. So not only are these people, not making $100,000 a year, they're out there already sweating in the heat, no air conditioning. But we turn on these. Sorry, I'm getting emotional because these are my people, So this air is getting sucked in for the air makeup unit because we spray chemicals inside of there to put finish on our cabinetry. With filters and everything else to prevent any issues, but we're pulling air directly in from outside, and that air has nowhere to go. It's just pulling it in, sucking it in, and so we did have complaints from many of our workers, and on several occasions now we've had to send people home, and I wish we'd have done it even more in the past. If they, in the future, if they speak up about any kind of situation, we will send them home right away. One other thing I want to say is when we called the fire department, they told us they would give us a 2-day warning when these burns would happen. And then, so where are we supposed to go then? Like, what are we supposed to do? You know, we have customers, we have deadlines, we have 35 people that have jobs that have to show up every day and make a living, and it's going to cut directly into their wages, cut directly into our profits, and possibly put our company in jeopardy. Not to mention, who wants to come to work across from what's going on over there every day? They're there 40, 50, 55, 60 hours a week. Who knows how many hours we need them there? And if this stuff's being burnt across the street, I really, really worry about their safety. So I just want you to take that into consideration.
So you're saying this has gotten worse in the last 6 months or so?
I feel like they're doing something more. I feel like it's amped up.
It's changed.
Yeah. And we have an employee who lives down the road who I know he has told me he's driven past and he sees this fire blazing through the night. And we have 2 employees actually just on that very same road, but the one goes past there all the time, and he's noticed the big plumes of smoke coming up, and he's noticed fire burning through the night. And he says he doesn't see anyone out there at all. That it's just burning away, and there's no workers on site. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but he doesn't think he sees anyone out there. But I'm just going off of his eyewitness statement.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate the input on that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
No one else. All right, we'll move on then to.
Wait a minute.
What?
Jeff's coming up.
I'm sure you guys all know my name and my address by
You gotta
now.
say it,
Jeff Grimes, 1314 Maplewood Drive.
Thank you.
So with talking to people, there's about 15 things that are really important to the town. But the number one thing right now is the lithium-ion batteries. So a couple years ago, the McMillans wanted to put a Casey's at the old Dairy Queen. And one of the reasons for not letting that go there was you guys were concerned that there could be contaminants get into the river, if I remember correctly. So I'm not sure how far that is from the river, but it's a lot farther than where we're burning this stuff out now. So there's one point. Second point is, so they're paying, from what I can get, $600 for one and $250 for the other. So that's $850 per month. I'm not sure what size of building that is, but if you guys are worried about losing revenue, I'll rent that for $850 a month, okay? Then maybe we can put some of the people's boats and stuff that you guys are making them get rid of out there, and I'll rent it to them real cheap. So I insist that this stops. I talked to the gentleman that has this business and thought about it, talked to other people in this town. Who you need to listen to is Jeff Lang and Scott Phillips and Hampshire Cabinetry. They're affected by this more than anybody else. I'm not sure who all lives up off of Ziegler Road, but guys, make this go out into the desert. Make the battery companies that are producing these things experiment with their burning and stuff at their battery facilities. You ever think of why they don't want that stuff burnt there? Just think about what's going on. It's so close to the river. It's so close to Swift Run. It's so close to our town. Fire marshal said you can't do it. Please think of our town. Please.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Tyler Fonzie, 1803 Nicklin Avenue. Unfortunately, once again, the citizens of Piqua, we got to rally together because something that will do irreversible damage to the city is being pushed forward. It's actually already kind of happening. So, with citizens voicing numerous concerns, as I'm sure you have guessed, I'm up here to discuss the burning of the lithium-ion batteries and other chemicals, which some citizens are now referring to as Burngate. Per the EPA, recycling these batteries is important as it avoids air and water pollution as well as greenhouse gas emissions. Obviously, burning these batteries are going to add air pollutions and greenhouse gas emissions. No matter the preventative measures that are taken to reduce these emissions, it doesn't eliminate them. Water pollution is also a major concern that citizens have voiced with its close proximity to major water sources, as well as beautiful ecological sources for plants and animals. Toxic gases released from lithium-ion batteries fires pose a very large risk to human health, yet they are poorly studied, and the knowledge of the fire toxicity is limited. Is this what we want for our citizens and our children to be exposed to? Chemicals that have not been studied to understand their long-term effects. We do know that lithium-ion battery fires and explosions have occurred in confined spaces, such as aboard aircrafts and airports in recent years per the FFA. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration recorded 300 events from January 2006 through 2020, and while few incidents caused immediate injuries, thank God, most led to exposures of lithium-ion battery-emitted aerosols and gases. Lithium alone can severely burn the skin and eyes. Inhaled lithium can irritate the nose and throat as well as lungs. Don't forget the damage it can do to the thyroid gland, kidney, and heart. It's also corrosive when in contact with moisture and water. So thankfully, the city decided to put it next to a river. That's wonderful. Speaking of the river, this one also happens to be the same one that's pretty close that the city last year had a meeting that the state did require on how to prepare for another historic flood. What happens if it does flood and all those batteries and residue gets caught in the flood and gets swept away? I believe in the last meeting, the company said that they had come from, what was it, Columbus? Like outside of the city. I'd imagine the company doesn't care, since if they did come from elsewhere, they can always go back. But the citizens that have lived here their whole life, or like myself, chose to move here, we can't just up and leave. This company itself has specifically stated that they are operating under the EPA's guidelines for the burns and tests, and yet this is the same EPA that whistleblowers came out against just 2 years ago, stating that the EPA had been falsifying dangerous new chemicals risk assessments in an effort to make the compounds appear safe and quickly approve them for commercial use. From 2021 and 5 years before, the EPA has not rejected any new chemicals submitted by industry despite agency scientists flagging dozens of compounds for high toxicity. 4 EPA whistleblowers and industry watchdogs say a revolving door between the agency and chemical companies is to blame, and that the program's management has been captured by the industry. Those charges were being supported by emails, documents, and additional records. So that is also concerning that we're going by guidelines that clearly are not being followed, or at least weren't for several years, including when this started. I do understand that this plan started in 2018. And I only moved here in late 2021, and other people are just now hearing about it as well, including myself. So I'm just concerned that, people that want to move here, as well as people that are raising kids here, are going to be affected by this, whether it's drinking water, whether it's the air they breathe. A big thing is trying to pull in younger generations. No younger generations is going to want to go somewhere where the water is being contaminated, as well as it's toxic. I mean, once you hear about that, no, you're gonna want to stay away. Personally, I live pretty close to it. Just yesterday, I saw people taking their kids and their dogs for a walk, and I mean, they're close by it. If they just keep walking that direction, they're gonna be right in the area of it. We have all the homes there, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Hitchings, 305 Westview. Am I right in understanding that the city receives money every time they do one of these battery burns?
Yeah, there's an additional payment.
Okay. And where does that money go to? Does it?
It goes into the water fund because that's who operates that facility.
Do we know how many battery burns they have done since 2018?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Warner speak to that when he does his presentation at the end of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Scott Phillips, 9640 Piqua Lockington Road. That's a sterile water sample. We're taking these by the hundreds. You know why? We're establishing a control. You ask questions, well, is it really impacting anything? Yeah, it's changing the water chemistry. As a hydrologist, I can tell you that. And the other thing is, I hope you guys are still, when you work in this building, drinking bottled water delivered by Crystal, because with what we're finding in the samples, you need to be.
Thank you.
And the reason we're collecting these samples is obvious.
Tom Homan, 1803 Nicklin Avenue. I just have a real quick couple of just, I guess, clarifications. There's some specific statements of fact that were made tonight that I think that the citizens deserve an answer as to whether or not they're true or not. The first one being whether or not the permit was correct or not. Was it the one that was issued? It sounds like that wasn't the correct version of the permit that was supposed to be issued for that. And I would ask Mr. Oberdorfer, I'm so sorry, if you could perhaps get us an answer as to whether or not that was the correct permit by the next meeting, or if maybe you know the answer now.
We're meeting with the EPA and RAPCON Thursday to have that discussion, so we'll have more next meeting.
And do you, are you able to speculate what the repercussions might be if it was found that they were in violation of the permit that they have?
I'm not an attorney or a chemist. I mean, I really couldn't.
Would Mr. Patrizio, who is an attorney, like to comment on that? Let the record show he said no. And then there was also another statement of fact by our resident hydrologist that this facility is within an exclusion zone, a specific radius around the waters. Could we get a specific answer as to whether or not that exclusion zone does affect those waterways? And again, if this facility is in violation of that, is there going to be an investigation into that, and what would the repercussions of that be?
I'm sure that'll all come out of the site inspection they're doing on Thursday, as well as the follow-up that he's going to do in his presentation.
Okay. So I guess could we, looking forward to that Thursday inspection then, could we at the next commission meeting get an answer to those two specific questions as to whether or not that permit was found to be correct or incorrect, and then whether or not that exclusion zone was found to exist and if they're in violation of it?
I'd be happy to, thank you.
Thank you so much.
City Manager's report.
Good evening. After a long meeting, I'll be brief as I can. First thing I'd just like to address, there was a letter to the editor and recently in the Miami Valley today, and I just wanted to be points of clarification because the author of the letter to the editor didn't quite get the numbers right. And again, this might be a function of not understanding municipal finance or project accounting. So I was just going to go through the numbers for the public so it's on record. With regard to Lock 9, the phase one was $675,000. That encompassed undergrounding the electrical overhead, some stormwater work, and some site development. Phase two, which is basically an outgrowth of the control estimate. So when you have a project, your budget's based on the engineer's estimate, which is called the control estimate, that keeps you within the boundaries of what you can afford and what the scope of work is. Phase two was $2.6 million. And likewise for phase three, the control estimate will be $2.9 million. So the subtotal of those three phases is $6.3 million. Of that, there's $1.9 million in grant funding that brings the total cost to the park to about $4.3 million, and that includes 13% contingency that we are hoping not to have to utilize in the project, as well as the value engineering that we've put in it so far. So the estimate, the engineer's estimate with the 13% contingency is at $4.3 million. As I said, the 8 grants totaled $1.9 million, almost $2 million. And because of the way those grants work, the grant revenues have been received. Some started in 2019, some will not be received until 2024. And that's a function of accepting the pay application from the contractor, making payment, and using that to get reimbursement on a lot of these grants. Let's see, the letter went on to question the waiving the reading on the $5.8 million, and I think we talked about that the manuscript debt from the sewer fund was established as a bridge loan to complete the park. And again, it had to be done so that we can remain on the critical path to get the grant funding, the work done so we could receive those revenues. And lastly, the letter stated that the city was prepping the site and purchase of the building that houses the Crooked Handle Brewery. And I just want to state for a fact, the city did not purchase a Crooked Handle. The records are public on the Miami County Auditor's website. If you'd like to look it up, the parcel number is N44-001130, and the transaction, I got to time myself out. And the transaction took place on November 18th of 21 between Patricia Obara and CHBC Property Management LLC. So when you get on there, you can look at the property card, and the city has never had any part of that. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
Thank you.
On to the next item. So just as a quick update, we talk a lot about air and water quality and, you know, the city's involvement in that. And I think it's important just to remind everybody that for decades we ran a coal power plant. And so we had air and water permits that had to be adhered to. So we do understand the importance of that. And just recently, the turbine number 8 on the Piqua Municipal Power just received its notice of compliance on August 23rd of 23. So we're actively engaged with the EPA and RAPCA on other items that are outside of this, and I just wanted to ensure you that when it comes to OEPA compliance, we're doing what's necessary. Furthermore, you can get on the OEPA's website and go back in time, and I did a search back as far as their records have, and the city of Piqua, which I was really surprised in Miami County in general, has not had any violations issued that were not cleaned up by warning letters or other, you know, administrative actions ahead of that. So I think that's pretty good for our county in terms of having, you know, a good quality place to live. All that being said, the fire department bird building and battery testing that's taking place at the old water treatment plant, it is highly regulated activity, and I was going to ask Mr. Warner to speak about that. He has a presentation.
Thank you.
So my intent was to just go straight through the presentation, beginning to end, hoping that that was going to answer a lot of the questions that we have collected over the last couple of weeks, that we have picked up on social media, and we're hopeful that that would probably be the end of the situation. In listening to everybody this evening, I just want to say, I hear you guys. We understand the concerns 100%. To Mr. Lang's point earlier, we've already engaged with EPA to pursue this new air quality permit. To the questions about the...
Take the mic in your hand, please.
Yep.
Go ahead. And you can face them, but take the mic with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
Well, to that end, we've already begun engaging with the EPA to pursue the new permit, realizing that you know, this is controversial. We realize we have a long road ahead of us, a lot of analysis to do. Hopefully, the presentation I want to give and going through a lot of what ESRG does to some extent will assuage concerns, but I just want to again state that we hear the concerns here. We have shut things down since this has become an issue in the last couple of weeks. We look forward to a productive meeting with EPA and RAPCA. On Thursday, we've already engaged with consultants to begin looking at our operation, to begin figuring out what we need to do to clean things up. But more than anything, to the question of why has some of this become more noticeable in the last year? And the answer to that is yes, we have started, our business has grown as the energy storage industry has grown. The scale of the testing we have done has grown. We've done that under the original permit, and I still believe that the original permit we had, we met the intent of, but understanding as our business continues to grow that, yeah, you know, as this is a commercial operation, then yes, it's time to move on. So we are pursuing that new permit. We look forward to whatever guidance or requirements EPA and RAPCA put on us. So hopefully we don't have to stand up here and talk about this anymore. Clicker for the slides. So I know throughout this, a lot of the ire has been aimed at the city and the fire department. when in fact it's Energy Safety Response Group who since 2020 is the one who has been conducting the burn tests out here. So I wanted to talk briefly about who we are, talk about the global impact that the work we've done out here has had. I don't say that with irony or to try to sugarcoat this, but truly because we have worked with people on multiple continents to improve the safety of these systems, to understand what the risks are, and to make sure that the fire department, whether it's here locally or in Australia, in Canada, in Troy, in Tip City, wherever it may be, all places with large and increasing lithium-ion battery activities, understand what the risks are. So with that, we have obviously at this point significant experience in medium and large-scale battery-fired testing. We have become a industry leader in this testing, both at the small scale and at the larger scale, and we work directly on a daily basis with subject matter experts, with code officials, with fire departments and others around the world. This expertise has supported product development for companies in Ohio, as well as in the US and internationally. At the end of the day, we work with a lot of people to build safer batteries, and we're proud of that. We work with individuals on permitting these systems around the US and Canada and the UK. We perform hazard mitigation assessments on these systems, looking at what the risks in these batteries may be. I think everyone is familiar with the safety issues that have been caused by hoverboards and the like. We want to look at these larger scale systems and make sure that the issues that are prevalent with those consumer products do not exist at this larger scale. And we work with hazmat individuals on the water and on the air side and on the product management side to make sure that everything we do is environmentally proper and in compliance with all federal regulations. So along with that, we work with fire investigators. We work with folks experienced in live burns and with people who do training for fire departments around the country, not just ourselves, but others. We've done train the trainer for multiple departments and talk about how to handle these systems after incidents as well, given the experience we have. So ESRG does not just test batteries. The testing part of the business floats between kind of a quarter and half of what we actually do. It's grown steadily in this past year, but for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a little slower part of the business. Along with testing, what we are involved in is pre-deployment services. So we go talk to fire departments. We've talked to thousands of firefighters around the world about what the risks posed by energy storage are. We speak to town hall meetings on a regular basis, taking what we've learned from these systems and go and communicate to them about what the safety may be and what they may want to do for their fire departments to keep them safe when dealing with them. We've provided expert testimony. We've put together emergency response plans. We've done environmental and hazmat disposal plans. And again, supported permitting and safety consulting. We're heavily involved in code development for energy storage, both on the fire code side as well as on the product side, and again, train code officials on how to look at these systems, determine whether they're safe, determine whether they can go into their community, and work with the developers and everyone else in the industry, again, to ensure that they're being educated on energy storage safety and building better and better systems. And then finally, like I tell people, the R in ESRG is response. We respond to these systems after incidents, ensure that they're packaged safely, ensure that the sites are secure, that they're sent off for disposal properly, just as we do with every battery test that we do here in the city. So with respect to the types of testing that we do, and all we do is testing and training, there's no burning of batteries for disposal. They'll talk more about that. We do standard and non-standard testing, to the point of the lady earlier. We do a lot of pre-certification R&D work to build better batteries. We do certification or standardized testing on these batteries to ensure that they're meeting the safety requirements. And then, as has been an issue with the industry of late, the standards have some gaps. We're engaged in what we call post-certification testing, looking at failures in these systems and other ways to ensure that beyond the standards, which we know are lacking now, we're identifying the shortcomings, making sure these battery systems are built safer, even if they pass the standards tests. Along with that, we engage in a lot of non-destructive testing. So just today, we were doing some electrical cycling for a tier 1 manufacturer with an interest in coming into the city. I know there were questions about jobs. We've brought multiple customers out throughout the years with an interest in the capability and the ecosystem we've built here in Western Ohio. And there are other energy storage entities, large battery factories in particular, that are coming to the area. So we provide services for them that aren't destructive testing, that don't have an environmental impact. We look forward to continuing those as we have been, and as we sort things out with this more destructive testing too. So capabilities, we can induce thermal runaway in the batteries in a number of different ways. The outdoor testing, which I think is what's been the problem for folks, is a capability that's been fairly unique for us, but one that we're going to have to do a lot more analysis on to see what the future of this testing capability looks like. We also have deflagration testing, where we're able to use synthesized gas and things like that to induce overpressure in the systems to prevent firefighter injury, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. We also have an ability to do gas analysis, which we've done a lot of. We do a tremendous amount of thermal analysis on the systems. We record video of the failures. We look at what's coming off of these batteries in a few different ways. We look at how the batteries fail, again, with the intent of building safer batteries. We've engaged in suppression testing, and nothing that contains any kind of toxic materials, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but we have focused on how these battery fires can be managed. To the point of the question that was raised earlier about, have we learned enough? These batteries are changing weekly, they're changing monthly. The chemistries are changing because of the sourcing of the materials, which is identified, which is having an effect on the, I won't say volatility, but rather on the thermal properties of the materials. So the industry is changing quite rapidly. We're doing our best to keep up with that. We've got a number of partners we work with, as has been identified. These are experts in the fire service, experts in the handling of lithium-ion batteries, damaged and otherwise, experts in handling EVs, experts in gas analysis and fire modeling, all these different things. These are people we work with on a daily basis to generate the highest quality data we can, again, to support the industry. And I'll talk more about disposal, but we've also built a disposal ecosystem here in central and western Ohio that's actually fairly unique in the world, we feel. We work with ESA, who's our partner for packaging these batteries. We work with a hazmat contractor out of Columbus. We work with a battery disposal firm out of Columbus, and we work with local scrappers and other disposal folks in the area to ensure that the batteries are separated appropriately per DOT and EPA guidelines, that they're packaged appropriately and then disposed of in the most cost-effective way. There are only a handful of facilities in the U.S. right now that are taking damaged batteries and doing proper recycling on those, and we're fortunate that 2 of them are actually here in central Ohio. DOE has invested $15 billion into this industry in the last few years, and while there's a number of entities growing, we're lucky that there's already a mature industry for this in central Ohio, one we have a relationship with, and we have other partners in the area that we're able to work with to dispose of these things as cost effectively and as environmentally friendly as possible.
Can you go back just real quick?
Yes, sir.
What was but fully compliant disposal batteries and runoff water following tests? What do you mean by the runoff water piece of that?
Yeah, so since 2018, there was no requirement in the permit we were granted at the time to monitor runoff or to do anything about that, but it was the request of the city that we collect 100% of the runoff we generate, which we were happy to comply with and which we have done as far as we know with 100% efficacy to date. I actually have several slides about the water, how we analyze it, what we're doing with it, what we're going to do to potentially do better if there's anything we can do better with it going forward. So I'll address that a little more later in the presentation, if you would. So ultimately, while we're doing this testing, this isn't because we enjoy burning batteries. Obviously, it's not for disposal. This isn't data that's just going into a void. We're working directly with customers around the globe, including a lot of U.S. manufacturers that could bring potentially jobs to Ohio, jobs to this area, but that are going to support the resiliency of the U.S. Energy storage and alternative energy industry going forward. This information makes safer batteries. I'm happy to say in particular, one of my proudest stories is a company here in Ohio that had a battery that just could not be built in a way that didn't burn and didn't burn extensively. And after working with them for several months, they have a battery now that barely spreads to adjacent modules. It can be installed indoors safely without any problem and can actually be put out quite effectively. So there are a tremendous amount of success stories with what we've done here for local companies, but for the industry globally. And again, everything we're doing informs our ERPs. There have literally been times when we have done tests for clients where we have seen something in the behavior of their battery. We go to that emergency response plan that we've been developing for that customer for another project and make changes to it immediately. We have people out in the field that are training. We communicate to them, hey, you need to change how the fire department looks at this, or hey, they've got a major design flaw that's going to result in this happening for this particular system. So there are meaningful results that exist throughout industry based on the testing that we've done. Again, we always complied with the permit that we had at the time that was issued by RAPCA, which based on our operation when we came out here for the first couple of years, for 2 or 3 years, met the requirements. Again, as we have grown as a business, that has changed. But in all of our large-scale fire testing, we work with trained fire service
Let me ask you a question
Yes, sir.
then. Why didn't you apply for the correct permit if the one you had originally serviced fire department and stuff? How come, are you still working under that one? Is that what the problem
So we
is?
were until last week. We are working with EPA now to move forward. EPA and RAPCA had never advised that there was a concern with what we were doing. I'll show you the language that we were operating under, and when you see it, I think you'll probably understand why we felt what we were doing was appropriate. It's not like we're out there every day.
But you hear these people. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I hear them.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I know you have to hear them. I
Mhm.
mean,
I do.
and I'm listening to them. So,
Our operation has grown. We had been looking at the things we were doing and feeling like this is necessary anyway. Obviously, it's happening faster than we had anticipated, but yeah, nobody at EPA or RAPCA had informed us that we needed this different permit. We found it on our own. We talked to them. We informed them. They agreed. Now we're working on it.
so also notice. I guess. I mean, someone asked at the last meeting, could notice begin? We should. That should have already been done. I mean, notice of when you're doing the burns and whatnot. Had you been doing that?
Yes, sir. We keep the fire chief informed. Every once in a while, we'll have a change of date just due to a customer.
So, and you put
being
stuff
delayed.
up on the bike path and out. So that people know.
We haven't done that to date. We had one large test a few months ago where we felt there was a potential for greater environmental impact in the area. Didn't end up being the case in our opinion, but the city closed the bike path out of an abundance of caution on that one.
So are these lithium batteries car batteries, or is it something else?
The bulk of what we do is stationary energy storage systems, so they go in grid-tied utility scale systems. We have done what I would call non-passenger vehicles today, so we've actually done testing for a large chunk of the electric forklift industry and helped them with their batteries, but the bulk of what we do is stationary systems like would
Is
be
that
tied
what
to a
now is
substation.
happening?
What's that, ma'am?
Is that what's happening now?
Yeah.
So that's different than, I guess my understanding was when this started that these were going to be lithium car batteries and it was going to be in some type of encased environment or something like that.
They could do training.
Yeah, and more so the fire training on how to put those out and things like that.
Yeah,
That's
so
kind of how it was presented in 2018.
Yep.
It was by the manufacturer for those vehicles that they were doing energy storage in, and those first sets that came in were designed by the car manufacturer, but they were being recycled off of solar panels, storage for that.
I guess my question is, how did we shift from that to where we are today? I guess that's my question.
So Tesla was our first customer when
Yeah.
we came here, but it was not their EV batteries, it was their stationary battery, which is the same that is in the electric vehicle. They use the same module, there's a different case around that battery, but at the time they were using the same battery module. So a lot of our initial testing was for them in that capacity, and those tests in that first year, I think all told, we did a handful of tests over the 12 months we were out here.
And this was in an encased environment, correct?
Somewhere encased, we created a semi-closed
right.
environment with walls as soon as we got out to the facility, and that was where either
Which
that
is
or in the 20-foot
different
containers.
from what's happening now with these plumes of fire and different things like that.
Yes, ma'am. In the
Are those
last,
the destructive tests, the plumes of fire, and
most of the testing we do is destructive. Those tests are certainly the most extreme by many orders of magnitude.
I guess I'm just, hello.
you said you did both non-destructive and destructive. But
Yes, sir.
Most of what you do is
Most of what we do is destructive, but most of what we do is on less than 10 to 20 pounds of batteries, or even if it's a larger pack, a relatively small portion of the battery actually fails.
Does that include the forklift batteries?
You can't talk. You can't
Yeah,
talk. Sorry. You
Yeah.
know, you can ask him later.
He's still presenting.
Yeah, so some of the tests, admittedly, even from the early days, have resulted in the complete destruction of the battery pack. Some have not, and most of what we do today results in, again, less than 10 to 20 pounds of destruction of the battery. In the last 12 months, we have taken on more of these larger scale tests, which, as I'm hearing now for the first time myself, have become an issue to the community. Again, this is something we take
And
very serious.
I guess in hindsight, it would have been helpful to come back to the commission
Mhm.
just to let us know what was
Yeah.
going on, and obviously let our citizens know what's going on.
We've been in communication with several departments in the city. Admittedly, I've not been to a commission meeting until recently, but I was not aware that everything was not being communicated. I don't know where that breakdown was, but again, it was not clear to me that this was not communicated. Otherwise, I would have been here much earlier.
All right, go ahead and, I'm sorry,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry,
yeah,
yeah.
continue your
Yeah, not a problem.
presentation.
So, to wrap this up about who we are, the importance we see in this, the energy storage industry is expected to grow another 15x from where it is now until 2030, and this is just stationary energy storage systems. This isn't even a matter of supporting renewable energy anymore. For Texas, this is a matter of keeping the lights on in storms. For California, it's a matter of keeping the lights on during wildfires. For Hawaii, similar issues. Even New York City and parts of the Midwest are starting to have issues with our aging infrastructure. Batteries are 100% necessary at this point to maintain our modern way of life, unless we want rolling brownouts to be a part of our life across the country, not just in some of these extreme environments. And so we put ESRG together in 2019 to bridge the gap between how fast we knew this industry was going to deploy and how quickly we knew public safety was going to be able to understand it and to adapt to it. And unfortunately, since 2019, there have been at least 3 incidences, potentially 4, involving stationary energy storage systems around the globe. One in Arizona in 2019 where 3 firefighters were severely injured. An incident in China where unfortunately 2 firefighters were killed, and then one in France earlier this year, again, where 2 firefighters were injured with these systems. Under some of the recently passed legislation, we're seeing a significant increase in battery manufacturing and an interest in doing so, and we know several of these manufacturers are eyeing Ohio to come here to build their batteries, to build their battery packs, to put them in their vehicles. So this is an issue that's contemporary to this region. I would also add again that there are facilities in Tip City, in Troy, in Springboro, south of Dayton, soon to be in Jefferson, or just outside of Jeffersonville, that are going to have massive quantities of lithium-ion batteries. And again, the work we're doing will hopefully go to the safety of those systems. And in fact, some of those people we would call customers today. So ultimately, not every test we do is resulting in a firefighter trained. I did not realize that it wasn't clear that we were engaging in testing operations, that the assumption was all of this was training. A lot of firefighters have been trained at this facility. We've generated a tremendous amount of data that's gone to training these individuals as well, not just in North America, but in Australia, in the UK, in Canada, and Qatar, all around the world. ESRG has truly become a global corporation and are trying to work globally to help firefighters. We also sit on NFPA 855, the standard for energy storage systems. Under NFPA, we're involved with the International Fire Code, which Ohio uses as code. I personally sit on 6 UL standards committees for putting together standards for safer batteries, and everything, again, that we're doing out here goes to those. So, again, we feel that both us and our customers would say that the service that we've done to date has been of interest to the globe. Obviously, we need to look at what we're doing out here to do better for the community of Piqua, because it's not fair to them that they're suffering at the expense of everyone else. And I'll say that right now. So we've been engaged with other third-party entities to take the data that we've generated and again try to build these batteries safer and understand the risk. So if I can just talk briefly about the practices that we do out on site, and then ultimately I'll address some of the stuff with the permit. We've been collecting all of the water that we've generated on site. We've got the pads out there that everyone has seen. There are basins in those pads. They are not drains. They do not go anywhere. It's just a 750-gallon retention basin right there. When those were purchased, they were EPA rated. by the company that installed those with the intent that, we needed to collect our runoff, and we wanted to make sure we were doing that properly. There was no requirement in our permit to do that at the time. We were asked to do it by the city, and we wanted to do the right thing. We do not generate firefighting runoff outside the pads. We are not burning these things out in the gravel and then spraying water on them. While we may spray water in the gravel, it's just while we're running the hoses. It's not on the batteries. We do not intend to generate any firefighting runoff in the gravel. It's our intent to keep everything on the pad, and I think we've been successful in doing so to date. In fact, we just created a new pad so that we can put batteries on that afterwards, so even the old batteries that we have covered up, we don't have to put in the gravel. Everything can be contained on the concrete. All of the runoff water that we've generated and has been tested to date has come back as non-hazardous waste. There's nothing in that water that the EPA considers hazardous material. Obviously, you don't want to drink it, but there's nothing in it that necessitates any major toxic considerations, and we've disposed of it appropriately since we've been collecting it. And I would say that this is typical of any firefighting runoff. ESRG is not aware of any spills or any major releases. We have never had a case that, we've observed that we think one of those basins is leaking. We've never had a case where one of the storage tanks that we use has been leaking. We are not aware of any spill or release on the site with the water. Again, this is not required by RAPCA, but we intend to work with RAPCA and EPA, have them review our processes, make sure everything is in line with what they would call best practice, and instill confidence that we are not exposing the water here to any of the toxins that have been mentioned. With respect to lithium-ion batteries, fires, they can be very difficult to extinguish. Water can often make the batteries worse, even if it looks like it's making things better. With respect to the training, we still have issues with batteries where we've tried to suppress them in the past with minimal amounts of water. We used to be able to do so, and unfortunately now, due to a number of ways in which the batteries are being built, there's really not even a way for us to put water on the battery in a way that has any positive benefit. So again, with respect to runoff water, part of how we've managed our runoff water is by not generating it or drastically minimizing the amount of it we generate. Because we've had to collect that water, we've never been incentivized to go out and put 5,000 gallons of water on one of these systems. We're very minimal in the use of water when we use it, and typically it's just to cool things after a test, not the batteries directly, but other things around the batteries. So again, we've been involved in the collection of runoff water going back to 2021. We have a significant amount of data on that. We've been working with the Electric Power Research Institute to understand what that data means. We intend to work with other consultants and experts in the field to understand what the potential risks are of that data or of what is in that runoff. This is a question that's being asked by communities around the world, and one that right now ESRG is the only entity I'm aware of that's generating this data. So again, hopefully a positive to come out of this. We also monitor literature on this. A recent study identified concerns with flushing batteries out after a fire. That is not something we have done in a very long time because we saw what was coming out of the batteries and stopped doing that quite quickly. There are questions that were emailed in regarding potentially cancerous substances on fire training grounds. I just wanted to address those. The substance in question is AFFF foam, aqueous film-forming foam. It does contain PFAS. In talking with Chief Polschneider, that is not something that's been in the city's inventory for several years. We have never had any on site. We will never have any on site. I have no intentions of ever having anything known to contain PFAS on site, or at least for us to use it. We've had people try to ship us stuff that we had questions about. It was immediately isolated, not tested, and will be shipped back to customers if that comes in. So other environmental considerations we're taking during testing, because we do want to minimize contaminants when possible. We prefer not to test with power electronics or inverters or anything else that may have rare earth metals or anything like that. We understand the concerns about batteries and prefer to keep our testing focused on those. We do not test liquid-filled transformers. We have no plans to do so. When people send us systems with liquid cooling, especially with ethylene glycol, we request that they be sent dry, or we drain them ourselves and dispose of it accordingly if it comes in. And we look at clean agent suppression systems if they're provided. We remove those from the test. I don't need them in the test. They haven't proven to be effective in previous testing by other entities or by incidents in the field. And so we're removing those to try to minimize any other byproducts that may be coming off of this testing. I know there have been questions about wildlife. I'm not an ecologist, obviously, but we have not observed any issues with wildlife. We've got deer, we've got rabbits, salamanders, mice. They're all over the site on a regular basis. I took this picture of 2 deer 2 weeks ago. We are unaware of any issues with fish in the reservoir.
Have there been any studies, though?
No formal studies have been conducted. Again, no one's identified issues that you know there's need to do so. So to wrap things up, as Mr. Lang identified, in working with RAPCA EPA, we are going to be switching our permit. In talking about the language in the permit and why this question even exists. For the first few years we were out here, we were doing relatively few fire tests. They were of a relatively small scale. Only very recently have we evolved into more of a commercial operation and are in complete agreement that this is the right way for us to go. But to the language in the requirement, instructions and methods of firefighting or for research in the control of fire as recognized by the state fire marshal and guidelines set forth in NFPA 1403. So everything we have done has been related to training or to research. By way of the permit being obtained through the city and us working originally through Bowling Green State University, who is now no longer part of what we're doing, no one identified that anything we were doing was anything but this language. Our relationship with BGSU has ended recently. Again, our operations have grown. It's become clear to us in talking with RAPCA that we need to move on with that as well.
Did you say it's ended with BGSU?
Yeah, so for the first several years we operated out here, everything we did was under the auspice of BGSU. I do not speak for BGSU in any capacity, but BGSU was involved financially in all of our testing. We worked through them. Rescue Methods is I won't say an extinction, but a private company that operated under the auspice of the State Fire School, which is who the city brought in to handle the burn building. So they were involved in all of this, and that again is probably why no one had any concern about this permit, given their involvement. That relationship has ended. Again, we have grown. We see now that we need to move on from this language as well. I want to be clear too, we have never burned any battery for anything other than testing and training. We have never burned a battery for disposal, even when it may have made things easier for us to handle. We have not imported batteries for the purpose of burning for disposal. We are not running a battery incinerator, any kind of trash incinerator. We were told from day one, you do this for 2 reasons, for training and for research, not for disposal, and we've been more than happy to comply with that.
Is there any intent to change that, especially if there's a commercial license?
Absolutely not. We have a wonderful ecosystem here for battery disposal. Our costs are significantly better than what most of the industry is paying for disposal because of these relationships, because of our proximity to these places. There is zero reason for us to ever burn batteries for trash.
Thanks.
But given the nature of the complaints that you're hearing now from citizens, especially on the destructive test, wouldn't it be better to pick a different location for the destructive test and the non-destructive test, you stay where you're at?
I think that's something we're going to have to look at. We've invested heavily in this site. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've hired multiple full-time employees out here, several of them either live in the area or intend to relocate to the area very soon. I've actually got another guy starting next week. So we felt like this has been home to us. Obviously, we need to be a significantly better neighbor. I hope if we do decide to stay and if we can get these things back under control, get back to the place we were a couple of years ago where there was no environmental impact in here, that we'll be able to continue to move it forward productively. But we're going to work with EPA and RAPCA to see where we land with all that. So again, we had no obligation to collect gas data. We were collecting gas data during much of the testing under the requirements of UL 9540A, which were focused primarily on explosive gases, as battery explosions have been incredibly harmful to firefighters. It's been difficult for firefighters to manage in a number of applications, and that goes back to the exact crux of why we were out here. So our focus has been there. In the years that we've been out here, we've done a number of tests where we've looked at different gas emissions in conjunction with EPRI, in conjunction with industrial health individuals. We've got a lot of this data that we look forward to sharing with EPA and with RAPCA and with our consultants. to verify what we've kind of felt all along, what we've noticed with our modeling of other projects, that the batteries, while there is an odor to them, while it's easy to assume that they must be toxic, the actual impact in the immediate area in terms of acute toxicity is essentially zero. So again, most of our testing involves smaller battery modules. Again, it's been stated that when we came out here, we were doing small stuff. Most of what we do is still that small stuff. In the last 12 months, we have increased in scale. We're going to look at the viability of continuing to do that if it's possible to do so. But most of what we do to date is still these smaller batteries. It's still not complete failure and destruction of these. It's not the production of thousands of liters of gas. They're very small. And their failure very small, and their footprint easily managed and easily contained inside the burn room that we've been operating in. And I would probably also add, with discussion to the permit, it's actually that burn room and us monitoring the gas that has shifted us from the open air permit that we operated under to the new industrial permit. Not what we were burning, but rather how we were burning it, which is in this controlled room. So most of these tests actually fall under EPA de minimis regulatory levels because they produce under 10 pounds of any toxic or any monitored or what's the EPA terms criteria gas. It's only a very small fraction, probably 10 or 20% of the tests that we do that exceed these minimal thresholds and are going to be subject to significantly greater scrutiny if they can be done at all. So again, one other thing I would add, as our operations have expanded, we've identified the need to get a lot of this testing back indoors, to not be out on the pad, to not have people driving by in the middle of the night and see that these things are burning and think there's an uncontrolled fire. First, I would say we've never had a case where we've had a fire burning and people weren't present. We do have fire watch on site, at least 2 firefighters anytime a fire goes into the night. Unfortunately, some of these fires, because they are difficult to extinguish, we're not able to get them out before twilight hours, and it's deemed safer to let them burn themselves out over the night in a controlled environment with those firefighters than it is to try to put them out, and then they potentially reignite later if no one is there.
How would you manage that in an indoor facility?
What's that, sir?
You were talking about trying to bring more into a larger indoor burner. I don't know the extent of how big some of these flames are, but when you think of an indoor.
Yeah, so the building we're looking at is going to be about 2,000 square feet with an exhaust hood 30 feet over the fire ground, and then whatever emissions equipment will need to go on that exhaust duct will also be installed. In terms of how that would be managed, we would still have firefighters or fire watch there if it was still burning, but by being indoors, we would fall under those EPA requirements for emissions, and no one would be able to see it from the road either, so hopefully it doesn't result in any impact outside the property.
Would it just change the site of it? Because you said there'd be emissions out, like you couldn't keep the flame or the fumes and all that contained. Would it be like filtered? What would be the difference?
Yeah, we would. So we've got a lot of analysis work to do. We've got the data to do it, but we're going to see what potentially is going to be required in terms of emissions management. So there are actually a number of indoor fire facilities that do this type of testing around the U.S. They lack the full capability that ESRG does and the expertise. It's guys who normally burn 1,500 couches, and then, on a Tuesday in September, they say, oh yeah, go ahead and bring me a lithium-ion battery, in which case a lot of trouble has happened in these labs. There are a few labs in the U.S. that will still do lithium-ion battery testing. But there are a number of these labs in the U.S., including another one in Ohio that's trying to operate but has had trouble doing so for the past year. And there's minimal emissions requirements on those in terms of filtering the air. Usually it's either some kind of hydraulic filter or an afterburner to burn off the unburned emissions. So we're going to work with EPA on that, determine what our need is going to be along with our consultants, and make sure that anything we do that needs to go through that will absolutely go through that. We were planning on revising this permit as we looked into this building anyway. So timing wise on this, this aligned with what our expectations were for the site, obviously in a little bit different way than we had.
How long would it take you to build that building?
So we've actually already made the down payment on the building. The hope is to break ground on the pad for that in the next few weeks. The building will be prepared at the end of October. We're going to have to wait now until we get the air permit from EPA to operate that building, and then determine too what kind of emissions control equipment will need to go on that. So Yeah, the original plan was probably December it could be operating, but now we'll see what else we need to do
We're
to
still
comply.
gonna do some burns until then?
Right now, there's the de minimis rule, where if we're producing less than 10 pounds of contaminants, we can do so. So again, we have conversations with EPA and RAPCA. We're not committing to anything right now. We'll see how those meetings go. But, you know, again, we operated out here for a long time with very small batteries. It's still very useful testing if we can do that in a way that, you know, doesn't have any impact outside the, you know, the site, then we may look at doing so if we can.
As you move from your current location into a new building, how does that permit change?
So the new building will be on the same site we're already on. So it'll be out at the water plant.
Okay.
So we'll just add that building to the permit. So again, going to disposal, I know there's been concerns about, you know, what have happened with these batteries. DOT requirements for shipping have evolved tremendously. We've been on the forefront of understanding what DOT wants to see with disposal. We work closely with the few entities in the U.S. that can take lithium-ion batteries of the type we're creating right now. We have never just, you know, thrown live batteries in the trash or failed to comply with DOT or EPA regulations as we understood them or as they were enforced regarding the disposal of batteries. We're proud of the ecosystem we've put together out here to be able to dispose of these properly and compliant with federal law. We look forward to growing that ecosystem to serve more of the eastern United States, especially as these incidents occur all over the place. Most recently, there have been 3 fires in New York in the last 2 months, and there was actually a large fire in California just yesterday. So as we've grown, our service offering has increased as well. We're doing forensic investigation out at the site, which involves the storage of batteries in drums, which I know has drawn a lot of conversation. They are not hazardous materials. Lithium-ion batteries, damaged or otherwise, are a general hazard as classed by DOT, but are not a hazardous material. They're stored in the drums for a few reasons, most of which are just containment and easier storage. I think it's a holdover from lead-acid batteries. I can't speak exactly to why they require the drums, but that's the way they want it done, so that's the way we've been doing it. It has the dual purpose of being weather-resistant and allowing us to store those under tarps out on the pad. So with respect to why things are tarped, it's just an additional measure by us to keep stuff out of the elements. Yeah, these things can, you know, prevent water egress, but we're just trying to prevent any more water or anything else from getting into any of these batteries. So going forward, we welcome regulation. We look forward to working with RAPCA, with EPA, with the city, with our partners locally and globally to continue to improve our operations. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars out here to build this site. We've got hundreds of thousands and more slated to spend out here to build if it makes sense to do so. We intend to comply with any regulatory requirements that come with the new permit. If that means scrubbers, then we will have scrubbers. We've spent thousands of dollars with local vendors. We enjoy working with all of them. They've been wonderful. We, you know, have also been involved, or at least the money we've spent was leveraged as cost share for this facility, or for the new Piqua Fire Training Building. We are, you know, in some ways maintaining the site and the infrastructure that the city will use when they're out there. I'm sure they're going to be in and out of our bathroom, potentially in and out of our buildings at times, which is fine. We enjoy the relationship we've had with the city. We think it's one that's been positive for both of us. And so, you know, to that end, you know, we see what they're doing as a partner, as a parallel to our activities. So I don't have anything else. I know it's late. I don't think Mr. Oberdorfer intended to take questions after
Ask
this.
you a question.
Yes, sir.
The last meeting that you were at, you said that in your former site, there was a school and a fire department built. Is that?
So we used to do this testing at a fire training facility in Delaware County. That was at the Delaware Area Career Center out there. It was right out back of that facility. That fire training ground shut down in 2017, which is what had us looking for a new site then. When it shut down, they told us the intent was to build a new fire station out there. I asked somebody a few months ago, hey, did that fire station ever get built out there? They said, yeah, I think so. but I never went back after our testing to verify that a fire station was built. But it had been a fire training ground for the county at the time when it was shut down as a fire training ground. That was the plan.
You said a school was built there too?
Well, the Delaware Area Career Center is a school, so the school was right there. I would also add that there was both a pond and multiple residences within a couple of 100 feet of that fire training ground. The Ohio Fire Academy and the Columbus City Fire Academy both are also within a few 100 feet of much denser residential than anything we're out there and near, as is several of our competitor labs around the U.S. So with respect to the distances, the code is complicated. No one ever identified to us that 1,000 feet was a required distance, and there's plenty of precedent throughout both Ohio and the U.S. for these types of facilities being much closer residences. So that was why it was not on our radar as an issue.
I just had a question. The process for Thursday, when you meet with the permitting process, will there be any conversations with some people that are local, like Hampshire cabinets, to see what kind of feedback, what kind of impact locally? I don't know what those regulations or how that process goes.
I think I would yield to the city on that because I know they're going to be a part of the meeting.
Or can they be invited?
What's that,
Well,
sir?
we'd like for them to be a part of it.
Well, yeah, they're invited. So where I was going with this is I think there are going to be a lot of meetings with RAPCA and EPA. We've had one preliminary phone conversation with them so far. So if community feedback is not solicited in this meeting, or if they're not invited, I'm sure there will be a meeting very soon that will. And again, we want to be a good neighbor. Clearly, we haven't been, there's no one to blame for that but us. And we're going to do everything we can to do better. So we absolutely want to hear from the local folks. And again, I regret deeply as a fellow small business that we had an impact on this company. Again, I was not aware of this until last week. So we certainly would have taken more precautions, tried to inform them, been much more proactive in communicating with them had we known this had been an issue for them.
So just for clarification, that you will contact Hampshire and there will be some conversation, is that?
Yeah, I've already asked the fire chief to forward my contact info to them or see if I can stop by and have a conversation with them. I don't know if that's happened, but I very much intend to want to apologize to them and to solicit their feedback and how we can make this work for everyone.
Good.
Well, we appreciate your comments and your presentation. Look forward to Thursday.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
I guess I just have one last question then. When it comes to the permit, if it is changed from to a more industrial one,
it's not an if, it's happening.
Okay. Well, okay, when that happens, based on the lease and such, under the premises, we're under the other permitting, is that going to change any of the circumstances under a completely different operation?
We'll have to review that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate it. Okay, commissioners' comments. Commissioner Hines.
Thank you, Mayor Pearson. I just, well, why doesn't Commissioner Grissom go first?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm
No,
like.
you're fine. I just want to say it's been a joy working with people. Honestly, the most times I learn things is in meetings like this, working as a community. It's been a long 4 years, and I can say it's came with a lot of challenges, and I've developed a lot of relationships, but unfortunately, I've taken a new job, a lot of personal challenges, so effective after tonight, I am stepping down as commissioner. So I do want to thank everybody for the support, the city, the citizens. It's been a wonderful journey, and I do appreciate everyone's support. But I know we'll continue moving forward. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Commissioner Hines.
Thank you. It has been a joy to have Chris sitting up here, and I remember when I met him and he had conversation about looking into doing this, and you have taken to heart every item that has come up before us. And I thank you for your involvement. I thank you for having a younger person on the commission. We need younger people. Hello, we do. And I just wish you the best. You have a beautiful family, and I'm so excited about your new job, and we have been very fortunate to have you, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Also, just a reminder, another commissioner has a special day today, and Chris Lee decided to spend his birthday with us, and what a
Yeah.
meeting for that. So happy birthday to Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you should have brought a cake. I know, yeah.
It would've been
I
good.
agree. I agree.
I'm not saying over 50, let's put it that way.
And I want to thank all of you who came forward to talk about this.
Yes.
Hampshire Cabinets, I'm so sorry. I mean,
Oh,
you have been
I
a
am.
business in this community for years. So thank you for coming. We're going to try to get to the bottom of what is going on here. Like I said, this started very small. It was contained, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of gotten into a place where we were not aware. So thank you all for speaking to this. Thank you for bringing up the issue before us, and we will continue to look at this. And I think that's all I have.
Right. Thank you. Vice Mayor, happy birthday.
Thanks. Hey, I want to thank everybody that's come out that has contacted me. I've had a lot of contact from people about this issue, and I just want to apologize, honestly. I feel you guys. I mean, listening to the guy from Hampshire, that hurt. That hurt me. And the lady that lives close, and Tammy, I know. Tammy Neves, I know. And so we hear you. We understand. And I'm going to request that there's no further burning until we get any of this and all of this stuff straightened out. We don't want anything. I don't want no testing, nothing. Let's just fix it, you know? I mean...
Do you want more burn while the EPA and Rick is there?
Well, we'll see what the EPA says. Well, that's a good question. But, yeah, that's what it's about. That's how they're going to test. So, my thing is that I appreciate people's passion. People are doing things the right way. They're bringing up and asking questions. I don't know who's writing toxic out there. That's not the right way to do it. And a lot of you who've seen that have disavowed that and told people to stop and knock it off. That I appreciate. I love that. That tells me that people care about the city, care about the citizens, want to do it the right way, and value their voice. Because you got a voice. We wouldn't have a voice if you guys didn't have one. So thank you for asking questions. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. You know, I applaud you guys. I really do. And I know you care. And hopefully we'll get through this and we're going to do it the right way. Mr. Grissom has been a heck of a commissioner. I kid you not. With his perspective, at his age, he's a lot younger than me. I could tell you a story about him, but I won't.
Thank you.
When he was, how old were you?
14.
He was 14, and I was a police officer at the time, but that's all I'm going to say. I've known him for quite some time. He's a voice of reason, very, very intelligent man. He's going to be sorely missed up here. And we appreciate your time, your volunteerism, your effort. And I know that you care about the citizens, and I know you care about the city. And good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Really, seriously, thank you again. And me, I am over 50, and it is my birthday. And I would not, I will spend some of it with my family, but I had to come to this because of all of the people that have reached out. I mean, there's a lot of people that have reached out about the current topics and some of the things that are going on. And we haven't forgot. No.
You gotta give it.
No. We haven't forgot about the rental advocacy committee that we want to set up. That's something we're still working on. We want tenants, homeowners, landlords. I'm forgetting anybody. Everybody who wants to be a part of that, to have a voice, to help people stop problems before they get to the BZA. So we want to create that committee so that people have a voice and we can help people out before it gets to a point where it may ultimately go to court or something. So I'm still thinking and working on that. So when that comes about, please, we need volunteers for that. And the thing that I wanted most when I first started on commission was for people to speak out. You're speaking out, and you're doing it respectfully at this point, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's a journey, and it was like pulling teeth to get people to come to meetings there for a while. And now you're coming to meetings, and we want you here, and your voice is welcome. So don't think we're afraid or that we don't want you here. We want you here. We want you doing exactly what you're doing now, asking questions, because you're bringing about awareness. And a lot of people have a lot of positive things to say. Some people have negative things to say, but as long as you have a say, that's what makes America America. So I appreciate you. And that's all I have. I do want to work with the business there. We got to get this straight. So, but that's all I've got. Thank you.
I have a couple of other comments, and I agree with things that have been said so far. I want to help people appreciate that we are continuing with our city-led spay and neuter program. We have spayed and neutered, I think, now heading for close to 100 cats. And so that program is moving ahead and hopefully will continue. And I think that's going to be a good improvement. I've had 6 cats killed on the street in my neighborhood. And they run from one food source to another, and they get killed in the street, and that's not good. And so we're trying a different approach, and so I hope that continues to work. I continue to be an advocate for what's called a first-time home buyers project. I'm absolutely convinced that housing is one of the issues that is a big concern in my neighborhood. So I know that we're experiencing some changeover in personnel, but hope that we will continue to be able to look at a first-time home buyers project in the neighborhood. The other thing I want to say is a shout out to my neighborhood. We're experiencing a little bit of what I would call a renaissance. Some people are spending some money on their houses. We're seeing some home improvement, and it's a good thing. And I think those things have to happen if we want to continue to have a nice community. So a shout out to my neighborhood on all of that. So with that, I'm done. Thank you.
I too want to thank Chris for his service to our community. I look forward to our meetings. You're always the one to ask the question, the hard questions, and I appreciate your input and your devotion and dedication to this position. I do want to announce that if you're interested in Ward 4 position, there's an application online. Fill it out and we'll get it processed, all right?
Mayor, you have to have lived in the ward for 1 year prior to applying, and you have to be in Ward 4. So
In Ward 4, yes.
Ward 4, yes. Okay. I also want to thank Lorna Swisher for her long devotion to Main Street. She has brought our community together for years and years and years with all of the events that have been planned. We're going to miss her. Think about fall, winter, spring, summer, and there's Lorna downtown getting ready for the next event. So I thank her dedication and hard work as well. That's all I had for this evening.
Mayor, I have one last thing. I have a yearly bet with the mayor of Troy.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Troy Piqua football game. Might be a little tougher this year, but I'm still rooting for the Piqua Indians to beat Troy. And if I have to wear a Trojan shirt or a hoodie or whatever it is she decides to put me in, if we lose, I'm not saying we're going to lose, I'll do so with grace and wear a Piqua hat with it. So.
Just to show.
I just wanted to let you know, that's this Friday.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Have a great evening.